Hello and welcome back to Bobbin's Minecraft Let's Play featuring the FTB Infinity Evolved Skyblock mod pack. You're watching Lucky episode 13. In front of me what you see is a setup for making, among other things, plastic for Mine Factory Reloaded. As you may recall from a previous episode, the recipe for plastic requires a bucket of rocket fuel. And so I have set up a cyclic assembler here, and it's loaded up with rocket fuel, and it is sitting on a crafting logistics pipe that sends the other components needed to make plastic here so that we can get plastic sheets out of it. The way this setup works is I'm delivering water here by way of a logistics fluid supplier. Getting stuck there, I made it kind of narrow. And in this first vat, which is an Ender IO machine that you use to make this stuff, I am delivering poisonous potatoes and sugar, and in a worst case scenario, if I run out of poisonous potatoes, it'll deliver regular potatoes. Poisonous potatoes give the highest yield that you can get of hooch, which is what this is making. And the way this machine is set up, I've just got a tank on either side of it. The items go in the top, and the configured I/O is to pull from the left side and push out the right side. So it's pulling from this portable tank, and it's pushing the hooch into this fluid tank from Ender IO. Right next to this tank on the other side, before we go to that, let me mention that up here on top of it, I've got a logistics fluid provider pipe. So this system also provides hooch on the network if I decide for some reason I need hooch. I'm not sure what I would need it for, but I did go ahead and set that up while I was setting up the system. Okay, in this one, it's actually set up exactly the same way, except that it's taking hooch as its input. The raw materials being delivered to it are gunpowder and redstone, and it's outputting rocket fuel into this very large portable tank on the side. This is a resonant portable tank. It holds 512 buckets. It's the biggest portable tank. This also has a logistics fluid provider pipe on top of it that provides rocket fuel to the network. On this side over here, it's simply pumping out rocket fuel into the cyclic assembler so that we can go ahead and make our plastic. While I was down here, I also moved the coke oven. There was a coke oven upstairs, if you recall, and it wasn't automated really. I have moved it, and I've got a cyclic assembler here that is making treated wood planks from wood and creosote oil. So I previously did not have treated wood planks automated on the network, but I didn't really need very much of it, so it wasn't that big a deal. Certainly you would need to automate this much earlier if you were trying to, let's say, use water wheels or windmills or some other immersive engineering stuff that actually used a lot of treated wood. The other thing that I would use creosote for is to make the, I guess you could call them, I don't remember exactly what they're called, but they're basically railroad ties for making tracks with from Railcraft. And I have used those in the conveyors in the mob spawner. Yeah, I don't need that many of those, and because I don't need that many of them, I did not at this point go and automate the carpenter that was previously making those, because I think I've got all I need. I'm probably going to have to set up more mob spawners, but I've probably got all of those conveyors that I'm ever going to need, or at least all of the components for them. So the rocket fuel has another use. It can be burned in combustion engines, and it produces a lot of power. You get 160 RF per tick from I say combustion engine, it's actually the combustion generator, I believe, from Ender IO. And I've actually put that to good use upstairs. Let's go take a look. But on the way, I'm going to make a stop because I have set up some stuff right here which is nothing very elaborate, just a chest that I can request things to, and an automatic hammer and a reactor to power the hammer and anything else that I put in this immediate area. This is the area with the squid tank and the animals, and you might recall that I had all my ore processing early on set up here. I am going to repurpose this platform, and as soon as I go to this chest you will know what I'm going to repurpose it to. Yes, I'm going to put Thaumcraft on here. Not this episode, but it is going to go here. And the reason for this hammer here is it's to hammer anything that I just give manual feed to, stuff that is not on the logistics pipe network. I put it down here because that is how I'm going to end up producing my Thaumcraft shards, mostly. And I've produced a bunch of them here. There are a couple that I haven't figured out really how I want to automate. The earth ones require grass blocks, and I have not looked into how to automate that. I bet you can do it through something like blood magic or something like that, but I'm not anywhere close to that. The air shards are actually even more problematic. They require that you break a double sandstone slab, and I haven't figured out a way to automate that either. There probably is a way. I may have to do some research. For the moment, I can just use a hammer on it. Anything that I need a lot of shards for, I'll probably depend on the water shards to fill that out. So like if I want lots of crystal clusters around a crafting altar for stability, I'll probably just use water shards. Okay, continuing upstairs. I've been working on my lasers, and there are a lot of them now. I went ahead, the tables are actually the same down at the bottom. I haven't changed them at all except for adding a couple of recipes. But the lasers, there are now 49 of them. I'm kind of hoping that's all the lasers that I actually need. This might be my ultimate setup for BuildCraft assembly table crafting. What I've done here is I've got 49 lasers and a power system to support them, and it's really the power system that's probably the more interesting aspect of it. I have 5 vibrant capacitor banks stacked up here to give a total storage of 125 million RF. That's quite a bit of RF. That's actually more than any single item requires in crafting through these tables. This is being charged by 2 IC2 nuclear reactors. Together these produce about half as much power as all of those lasers will run. The other thing I have here is for supplemental power. Suppose that I send a really large order to these tables, and it's going to take a long time to craft. Let's say it's going to take a full hour to craft all this stuff that I've requested. Well, in that amount of time, because those reactors are only producing half as much power as is required in order to run the lasers, the capacitor would run out and everything would slow down. So what I actually have set up is a backup system here to sort of support it once power drops beneath a certain threshold. And it's using rocket fuel that was made downstairs. And here's how it works. I have a redstone comparator sitting next to and monitoring the vibrant capacitor bank. This puts out a redstone signal that varies in strength according to how much power is stored in the system. Right now the system is full, so it's putting out a full power redstone signal, which I think will go like 15 blocks or something like that. It's been a while since I really played with vanilla redstone. As the power goes down, the strength of that signal falls. At some point, the strength of that signal will fall so far that it no longer reaches across this full span. And at that point, based on testing, there should be about 26 million RF still left in the capacitor, so it's still going. And when that happens, this inverter, this is just a NOT gate, will turn on because its input is off, and that will cause a redstone signal to jump over to here and power these redstone conduits that go through here. These are Ender IO redstone conduits. That in turn will cause these combustion generators to turn on, and they are all configured with rocket fuel and coolant. And the way that this is set up, they're pulling from above and below. So they all have the same basic configuration. They require a redstone signal to run, and they're pulling from above and below. And I've just used these open blocks tanks to sort of sandwich them in alternating layers so that everything has access to it. When these kick on, they provide enough power so that there's actually a surplus with all 8 of these plus the reactors running, even running full blast on the lasers. It will actually, these will only run part of the time in that case because they generate more power than is required. So as long as I have rocket fuel available, and there's a lot of it stored down there and it continues to craft it, these lasers can run indefinitely. And they're not even on the main power system. The boiler is no longer connected up to these lasers in any way. They've got their own independent power system. So the way that everything is sort of supplied back here, I've got a logistics fluid supplier. It is keeping this tank that's all the way over on the right filled with 16 buckets of water. And the way that the open blocks tanks work, the water will get distributed through the whole structure. So even though there are 64 buckets of water up here, we're only supplying 16 to this tank on the end. That's all the pipe knows about. Same thing on rocket fuel here and in water on the bottom. Then this is just the usual setup for nuclear power that I showed in a previous episode. So that's the new laser system, and it works really well. I've never actually run the storage out or even down to the threshold where the combustion generators came on since I built it. So I'm kind of hoping that this will be the last upgrade to the laser system for the duration of playing this mod pack. We'll see. I mean, there might be something that is just so huge that I've got to put in some vast order, and it's just taking days to produce, even with 49 lasers pounding away on it. And in that case, I might have to come in here and tweak it some. So that's most of what I've been working on between episodes. I have been continuing to work on my bees. There is some progress there. I'm not really going to talk about them because I think that the last couple of episodes have had quite a bit on bees, and people who aren't that interested in bees probably don't want to hear it. The other thing that I've sort of set up over here is, since I had a QED, I went ahead and replaced my kill system, and you can sort of just barely see it in there, in this mob grinder with iron spikes. The iron spikes will give you player drops from the mobs. They don't produce any experience orbs, and that's kind of a good thing because I hate having those experience orbs floating around if I don't have anything soaking them up. But because it's producing player drops, I'm now getting all sorts of enchanted armor and unenchanted armor and just a whole lot more drops. And it's kind of been a little bit of an annoyance. Alright, so what I did was I went ahead and set up a better system for filtering that stuff out. And what I'm doing here is all of my unenchanted items are being handled by this filter, which is stuffing them in this chest. And I'm going to have to put another one over here on the side to get more of that stuff because there's more than 10 different items that can come through in an unenchanted state. But the way this filter is set up is an advanced item filter, and it doesn't care about metadata, which means these can be in any state of damage. It does care about matching NBT data. Now, NBT data, among other things, carries the information about the enchantment on an item. And these that are in the filter are all unenchanted. So this will actually match any unenchanted item of these types, but it won't match any enchanted items. The enchanted items are coming into here where I've built an auto disenchanter from Mine Factory Reloaded. And this is being supplied with books, and it's got repeat yes on it, so it will just keep going until the item is destroyed or all the enchantments are stripped off of it. And so this is transcribing all of the enchantments onto books and sending them down instead of sending the items. The books I've just been making into magical wood. So the other thing that's of interest here is the way that I've got these storage drawers set up here. This is actually a pretty clever filtering system that probably isn't all that useful in most scenarios, but it works pretty good on a mob grinder. And another scenario where it works really well is in a mod pack where you've got to do ore processing and you've just got hundreds of different blocks and stuff to handle. Like a typical scenario would be, I think, something like Project Ozone, which has metallurgy installed and a few other things, and you just end up with tons of different things that need to be processed. And all these storage drawers are actually doing, they're not storing these items. You normally think of storage drawers for storage, but here it's for filtering. All these drawers are locked, and because they are locked, they remember what items are in them, and the system can't add any items. So what happens here is items come out of the chest, and it attempts to insert them in here. And if it can insert it, then it will go in here, but it's immediately pulled out on the other face of the controller here and sent down the network. So only items that are in this bank of storage drawers can be done that way. The nice thing about storage drawers here is that it's easy to expand it. So I can come over here and put this witch's hand in here, just like that, and suddenly witch's hands will fly out of that chest and into the system, just like that. So you can see what the filtering is. You can expand the filtering using just a large bank of storage drawers. It's far more capable of filtering a huge number of items than you would otherwise get. So that's actually a very nice thing you can do with storage drawers that's different from storage. And so I've been using that, and I'll have to bring another storage drawer over here to actually go and expand the system a little more, because I'm obviously getting some items that need to go through there. So that will be on the agenda between episodes. Next, what I want to do is take a look at my project for today, which is going to be, I want to fly. So I need to set up a jetpack, or make a jetpack. And I've got all the recipes set up in the logistics pipe system for doing the components of a jetpack, and I really just need to assemble it. So I'm going to cut, and I'll meet you over by the storage drawers over there, and we'll assemble a jetpack. Okay, here I am by my crafting table and request pipe system next to all of my storage drawers so I can auto-craft stuff in some reasonable amount of time. Let's talk jetpack here. There are a number of different jetpack options. This is from Gravitation Suite. I'm actually not going to make this for flying around in. Some of the more advanced achievements do require some stuff from this mod, so most likely some of this stuff will get made at some point. This is from Industrial Craft 2. I don't know if I'll ever need to make any of that or not. Project Red Expansion has a jetpack. I doubt that that will get made. What I'm actually going to make today is from Simply Jetpacks. I'm going to go ahead and make the Armored Resonant Jetpack. This is the Tier 4. There are actually 5 tiers, and each tier has basically a thermal expansion set and an Ender IO set. I normally go with the thermal expansion set. I don't know if I've ever made the other one before. I will certainly have to make it if I get to the end of this mod pack, because there are some components that you need from it. I don't know that you need the jetpack itself, but you do need like some of the thrusters and so on. So let's look at what's involved in making this. I'm going to need Endurium armor plating, and this I have not automated. This requires the induction smelter, and as far as I know, I'm only making one of these things, and so I didn't set up an induction smelter specifically to automate all the steps in this. So I'll have to do that by hand. The other piece it requires is the resonant jetpack itself. And if we look at sort of the structure of this recipe, you've got a couple of thrusters on the bottom, and then some metal ingots on the side, and a flux capacitor on the top, and the prior tier of jetpack in the middle. And so because it's got the prior tier of jetpack in the middle, we can just sort of drill down. We can see that we've got to make all these things all the way down to leadstone, where it just requires a leather strap in the middle. Each one of these, of course, requires a different tier of flux capacitor, and it requires a different tier of thrusters. The thrusters are actually the most complex piece of it, other than the prior jetpack. And they require, in this mod pack anyway, a form of redstone, which is either redstone dust on the lower tier ones or destabilized redstone bucket on the higher tier ones. Some metal on the corners, which varies by tier. Some flux ducts, which vary by tier. And a dynamo, which also varies by tier. The dynamos, the recipes have been made a little more complex for. This is the innervation dynamo. It requires fluxed electrum blend on the tip here and some other components that are not too bad. If we were to go to the hardened one, it requires a reactant dynamo, which the other components are not too bad, but this one requires uranium-238, so you've got to get your hazmat suit out. At least I think you do. The lowest tier one here is the leadstone. The leadstone one requires a steam dynamo, which requires a coal chunk on the tip. The coal chunk is made through industrial craft machines. Each one of these things requires a full stack of coal and a whole bunch of processing. So really, if you sit down and break it down at this point, I've had all of the items that are needed to make these for 2 or 3 episodes now at least. But I just haven't had all the recipes set up and all that. It's the real difficulty with the jetpacks is the complexity of assembly, not necessarily the gathering of all the materials. So let's just start with the leadstone jetpack. Since it is the lowest tier, I'm going to need some lead, a leather strap, a leadstone flux capacitor, and a leadstone thruster. And actually what I'm going to do here is I'm going to need one of each capacitor and 2 of each thruster, and I'm just going to go ahead and request those now to get them crafting. So capacitor, and we'll just start here at the beginning. Some of these have already been made along the way, but I'll request one of those. Alright, we got those. And then thrusters, I'm going to want one of those. Actually, I'm going to want 2 of those. And continuing on, 2 of each one. Now, strap. I'm going to want 1 leather strap. But I got 2. Oh, so sad for me. Okay, so we've already got those. We got that one, and we've got the strap, and so we just need the metal, which for the first tier is lead. So there's our leadstone jetpack. Now we want to upgrade this, so we're going to need the next tier of thruster, which is the hardened, and we're going to want the prior jetpack, which we've got there. We want the hardened flux capacitor, and then the metal on this tier is Invar. So I'll arrange all this stuff in here, ideally correctly. And we've got the hardened jetpack. So now we're going to move on to reinforced. Reinforced, there's our two thrusters. The metal on this one is electrum, which I think I've got. I could request it through the pipes, but I've got it right there. So there's our reinforced. Now, it's only made one of those so far, so we may have just a little bit of a wait. The metal on this one, however, is Endurium. And is it the right chest? Yes, it is. It's still working on that thing. So while it's working on that, there is another piece I'm going to need. I'm going to need some method of charging this. One way to charge it is just to put it in any of these vibrant capacitor banks I've got sitting around. I've got the big one up there that's doing the lasers, and you might recall I've got the small one down there in the manual area. The other way to do it is to use a wireless charger. Actually, there are several ways to do it. The other option that I'm going to employ is to use the wireless charger from Ender.io, which is this one right here, and it's going to require 7 electrical steel, 1 octadic capacitor, and an Ender resonator. So I can make an Ender resonator right there. Looks like I've already got one made. That is one of the things that I've got set up and automated though. Alright, so octadic capacitor and electrical steel, and I needed 7 of those. And there's my final piece there. So let's go ahead and make this. And there I have the wireless charger. Okay, so I got my jetpack without the armor and my wireless charger. Let's make the armor. I already have the iron armor plating made, which is the base. I'm going to have to run that through the induction smelter with 10 bronze. Then I'm going to have to run it through with 10 Invar. And I'm going to have to, let's just take a look. I know I'm going to have to do Endurium, I think, at the end. But I don't remember. I guess there isn't an Electrum stage, because this is Invar, that's bronze, that's iron. Okay, so I need 10 Endurium. Just like that. I'll come down here and run these through the induction smelter. While that's going, I'm going to take my wireless charger and I'm just going to plop it down right next to here. And it's actually already charging the one in my inventory. So that's good. That finished. And for all that charging, it just doesn't, it's not, I mean, it's moved a lot of stuff out of the vibrant capacitor bank, but it doesn't seem to be making just a huge impact on it, so that's good. Last step on the armor plating. And now I can just assemble this. I guess it goes like that. Alright. And this is a piece of chest armor. So there it goes. It's still charging. And the interface is supposed to be the U key, but it isn't. So let's see what key it actually is. Controls. Gameplay, grab a suite, inventory. It is U, but there's a conflict. So let's change that to... I'm just going to change it to divide. There are always so many key conflicts here. So if I hit divide, toggle engine, and it is disabled, so I want it enabled. Hover mode, I want that enabled, and emergency hover mode will enable that as well. So there we go, I can fly. And that will be very handy for a couple things. One of the things that it would be very handy for is to go and find some ARA nodes from Thaumcraft, because they're all down near the bottom of the world, and it's very inconvenient to go and build all the way down to the bottom of the world and then build a huge platform exploring for them, especially since initially on you don't have like the goggles of revealing and so on, and so they're hard to see. Having said that, that is not how I'm going to start with Thaumcraft, because I have already done something with it here that I'm going to show you that you should be aware of. You don't have to use ARA nodes to get your initial mana for Thaumcraft. I have 4 iron-capped wooden wands here that I've made that are all fully charged, and the way they got fully charged is by killing mobs. And all you have to do is make some of these wands and hold them in your inventory while you kill mobs at a manual kill station like this one, and it will charge up the wand. You can also charge them if you want using peaceful mobs, but I believe that peaceful mobs will never give you the fire aspect, which is a little bit of a problem. So you can get all of your others that way, but you're going to be limited on fire, and so that's going to present a little bit of an issue for you. You don't want that. So stairs are going to be a little inconvenient, I guess, with the jetpack, but that's okay, because I like my new ability to fly. And with that new ability completed, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this episode. I'm not going to make it another blockbuster long episode. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.